Are you ready for more action? Are you ready for more excitement? Well, look no further, because for the first time since Ricky Raceway in 2017, the WRLA Xfinity Series returns to the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. We have a lot of new faces and a lot of familiar faces as well, just like of how we talked about earlier today in the Menards Truck Series event. And we're going to cover it all in this 60-lap action-packed, door-to-door, threes, maybe sometimes four-wide race here at Daytona. I know that didn't really make a whole lot of sense there, but I know for a fact I'm excited and I'm ready to go for more WRLA action. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway, where it will serve as our season opening race for the WRLA Xfinity Series. It's the Drive4COPD 300, and there really is not much else to really go over other than we're excited to get this season underway. We had an amazing Menards Truck Series race earlier today that saw Emmanuel Hartnett and Michael Davis duke it out to the very bitter end. But by the end of it all, it was Emmanuel Hartnett who won that event by 4/1000ths of a second in that 50-lap race. But now here we are, just about 7 hours later, and we're getting ready for our 60-lap event here at Daytona for the Xfinity Series. And there are a handful of drivers, at least a decent amount of them, that will be taking part in tonight's race. One of which being Haley Tullis, who is in this event. She drove the number 81 to kick off the season in her full-time tenure in trucks. But on a limited schedule, she is driving the number 91. Also, I wouldn't say for Davis Family Racing, but also for the DGM team as well. And her teammate, of course, Noah Cars in the number 92. You see him there, starting in the 8th position. It's going to be the first time in 9 years since we've seen drivers like Noah Cars, for instance, and even Carter Belair and Ray Atikian's going to be running full-time in this series now. There's a lot of drivers, some drivers, as a matter of fact, that were full-time in the Xfinity Series back when it was the McDonald's Series, one of which, again, being Noah Cars, who went to victory lane in 2017 in a action-packed, very wild and, chaotic race at Michigan just almost 10 years ago. But it is a new era here in WRLA as the Xfinity Series is going to make its return since Ricky Raceway 9 years ago. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the drivers are strapped into their cars. Pre-race ceremonies are just now starting to wrap up. But in order to get these 40 cars rolling on the racetrack, we got to get the command to fire the engines. So let's go trackside and get just that.
Drivers, start your engine!
Engines are fired, pace car is rolling off, and so are these 40 competitors. Starting lineup will be rolling on the left-hand side of your screen. As you can see, Igor Barreto and Campbell Marsh, they make up the front row. Of course, Marsh, former NOS Energy Cup driver for American Motorsports, now driving for Walker Family Motorsports here in the Xfinity Series, lines up on the pole with Barreto on the outside. Brian Davis, who is full-time in the Cup Series, we'll see him in tomorrow night's Daytona 500. He lines up alongside Eric Blaze, whom by the time that you're seeing this, you wouldn't know whether or not if he's going to be in tomorrow night's Daytona 500, but you know for certain he's going to be in this race. He lines up in the 4th position. Ray Atikian and former NOS Energy Cup driver Sebastian Kukulon in row number 3. Then in row 4 is Kenny Stremme and Noah Cars, Bryce Egan, and Thomas Jericho. That is your top 10. Of course, we saw Egan earlier today in the Menards Truck Series event. And actually, I think he wound up taking home a top 10 in that event. But now here he is in the Xfinity Series race, and he's going to have another shot at trying to get a win here today in this doubleheader. We had ourselves, again, a fantastic Truck Series race, and we're sizing up to have a pretty wild and action-packed Xfinity Series race here today as the field now works their way off of turn number 4 behind the Chevy Camaro pace car. You can tell by the stutters, I'm a little excited for this one, so get ready, because there's going to be quite a few of them stutters throughout the year. Pace car heads to pit road, and Campbell Marsh and Igor Barreto, they're going to lead them to green and revive the WRLA Xfinity Series here at Daytona. It's not taking them as long to get to 3 wide formation, but it's not going to take long for Ryan Davis to just dive to the inside or try to take over that top position. Ray Atikin's going to try to make it 3 wide, and there they go already in turn 3. What in the world? Stephen Walker collected in that one, along with Igor Barreto and a few others in that one. Caution is out for the first time today. We didn't even make it to complete lap 1, and already, just as I was going to comment on it, they were about to make it 4 wide, and that was the most unusual spot for a wreck to happen midway through turns 3 and 4. And Celeste Lace's day is already going to be over before it even starts. Ryan Davis led him back to the caution flag for the first time here today, and that is just not the way you want to start off your season here in the Xfinity Series. And there's already a few drivers in the Truck Series earlier today that are not going to get their years off to a great start. There's Haley Tullis in the 91. Starting making her way back out onto the racetrack. Might have had some damage to her machine. There's Stephen Walker in the 66. We'll see him tomorrow in the Daytona 500. But as for tonight, his number 66 is all smashed up. And we're already going to have at least maybe about 3 retirees. Maybe 4 if you count Igor Barreto, because that car is junk. Hey, I think we even had another. I think we had a stack up, because man, look at the damage on some of these cars. Kenny Stremme, Derek there's several cars that have very heavily smashed in front ends. I mean, Joshua Neely. I see the 16 of Kenny Stremme, and like I mentioned, Eric Blaze, Jordan Sumner. Sumner's day is going to be over. Steve Morgan's going to continue on. Same for Ryan Kendall. But what a way to kick off the season here at Daytona. I don't even know where else to really begin. Fitzgerald is done, along with Austin Kane and Jordan Sumner. Sebastian Kukulon is done. But there is just a huge, major stack up, I would have to believe, had to have happened on the back straightaway when all these drivers were trying to get themselves situated. But in the meantime, Ryan Davis is your current race leader to start things off here in the Drive4COPD 300. Let's go back and review what happened to cause our first caution of the night here in Daytona. Well, this is a very interesting way to start the race from here at Daytona, and unlike in any other formation that I've seen in a very, very long time, but in other NR racing series. But you see the door open completely wide. Kenny Stremme just keeps drifting up the track right into Igor Barreto and also the 8 of Eric Blaze. And look at that 11 just get lifted up into the air, and now on top of the 8 of Eric Blaze, there's Sebastian Coquelin getting involved in this scenario. And then several others, they have to jump on the brakes to miss this whole thing. There's where Stephen Walker gets involved, Celeste Lace, there's Austin Kane, Haley Tolis, Ajax Fitzgerald. There's just so many cars that are just absolutely piling up on the exit of turn number 4. And there are, I mean, of course, there's still several other cars that just wound up getting involved in the stack up that we're going to see later on. But man, what a way to start things off here in the season opening Drive4COPD 300 from the World Center of Racing Daytona. There's going to be a lot of cars, at least several cars that are going to be taken out in this one here at Daytona. This is just one of those things that I was just not expecting to see at all. And I'm not really understanding why Kenny Stremme was as high as he was at the start of the race, at least as far up the track as he was, because that it's just too early in the race to be going 4 wide, and it's just causing a lot. I mean, it's caused a lot of commotion like this. And unfortunately, it's going to see Celeste Lace, Sebastian Coquelin, Austin Kane, and others go out of the event from this crash. But we're going to follow along here with this and try to figure out exactly what happened and who just jammed on the brakes. I think it had to have been somewhere up here during the cool down lap, because I know Joshua Neely, oh, there it is right there. You saw it there. It was Harun Khan Koiloglu who was the start of that. And then just look at this, just Carter Belair, Fitzgerald, and just, wow, there's just so much that just wound up happening there within a short period of time, all on the back straightaway. And look at the damage to Derek Hamill's car, Kenny Stremme receiving more damage, Eric Blaze as well, Jordan Sumner, who's going to be running full time in this series. She's not going to be able to start her season off right. And neither will Austin Kane. He sustained even more damage than what he did from the crash. Fitzgerald, same case for him. But this stack up is going to take out a lot of drivers, not just from the race, either that or from contention of winning this race. Joshua Neely, I'm pretty sure, was one of those drivers that elected to continue on, along with Ryan Kendall and even the 7 of Steve Morgan. So it's going to be very interesting to see what navigating around those 3 cars is going to be like. Will Parrish, I believe, has elected to continue on in this race. Sam Robinson as well. But Stephen Walker, I believe, also took his car back behind the wall. But in the meantime, after everything that has just transpired, it is the number 70 of Ryan Davis leading the charge. So why don't we go ahead and rejoin the field to take the restart here at Daytona. 1 lap and we will be back to green flag racing from here at the Daytona International Speedway. And we didn't even get to even start the race. We already have 10 cars already out of the event. And you can see them right there. Derek Hamill, Kenny Stremme, Eric Blaze, Stephen Walker, Jordan Sumner, Ajax Fitzgerald, Austin Kane, Sebastian Coquelin, Igor Barreto, and Celeste Lace have all retired from the race before it even started. And they are going to be starting their seasons off sort of in the hole, if you will. But for some drivers, I mean, there are still 30 cars running on the racetrack as of right now. And your top 10 goes as follows. Ryan Davis, your race leader. The Walker Family Motorsports teammates, at least the ones that are still on the racetrack as of right now, Atikian and Campbell Marsh are running 2nd and 3rd. Then in 4th is Bryce Egan. Kasumi Takashi completes your top 5. Then Dana Mon in 6th. Then in 7th is Nick Martin. Justin Ingleham for Zachary Taylor's team is in 8th. Josiah Munsell in 9th. And rounding out your top 10 is Reagan Whitlock. So 3 out of the 4 Walker Family Motorsports cars are still in this field for this race, at least in the opening stages of this Drive4COPD 300. But just as a reminder, there are going to be some drivers that are still out on the racetrack that have received some pretty moderately severe damage, at least cosmetic wise, and who knows, maybe even mechanical. But they're definitely going to be drivers to watch out for as this race continues on. And we're going to be restarting on lap number 6. Ryan Davis brings them down to the restart. And we're back underway here in Daytona. Man, look at Campbell Marsh. I think he tried to go to the outside of his own teammate there for a split second and then just cut right down to the bottom of Ray Atikian as he dives to the inside. There's the number 39 of Kasumi Takashi already loaded, or at least riding up to the back bumper of the 18, and already we're now starting to see that double file formation break out here. Marsh on the inside, Atikian on the outside, and at least for the early going of this event, Ryan Davis playing the role of the Pied Piper. But not for much longer. Campbell Marsh, our pole sitter, makes the run to the inside as they head down through the tri-oval this time around, and Davis, or not Davis, but Campbell Marsh is going to lead this lap, so he'll pick up the bonus point for leading a lap. Now, just as a reminder, as we talked about in the Truck Series race earlier today, it's 1 point for leading a lap, 5 points for leading the most laps, and the additional 10 bonus points for winning, along with those traditional 40 bonus points, or those traditional 40 points for finishing in first place. Excuse me. Marsh and Davis still double file, at least for the moment, and we're already starting kind of seeing how small this pack really has gotten. There's Alexander Rowe, another former American Motorsports driver, now driving for RCR, and he's the only one left, just trailing the back end of this pack, and at least trying to snag a draft off of Sarah Taylor in the 24. So just behind them is Noah Kars. I see Reagan DeFeo here as well, with Thomas Jericho and Harunkan Koiloglu in the 42, just barely hanging on to whatever draft that he can get off the 4 of Thomas Jericho. And then we have some of the stragglers that have some of the buckles on their hood. I mean, Sam Robinson and Haley Curris in the 44, and then the drivers that had obviously a ton of damage, that sustained a lot, not just cosmetic body wise, but also mechanically. Carter Belair is back here, and 2 out of the Death Rider racing cars, 2 out of the 4 of them are still in this race. And Russell Blaze, who ran the truck race earlier today, of course not going to be too happy with the results as of right now, but he still has 2 other cars that are in this event, and they're still good. They're still clean and green, at least for the most part. I wouldn't say clean and green, but still out on the racetrack nonetheless. They're just not going to have any sort of chance at winning this race. But up front, Dana Mon leads the way. Marion Judici on the 31, making her way down to the inside. She also has competed in the Xfinity Series back in 2017, and I think even in that same year, she wound up winning what was then the Indianapolis 100. So definitely a lot of, definitely a good amount of history here with Marion Judici, and right behind her is another driver that I believe has competed in the Xfinity Series in the past, in the McDonald's Series. Drove the number 20 back before it was owned by Walker Family Motorsports. This is Erica Douglas in the 32. So all three of the Jordan Anderson racing cars are 1, 2, and 3 right now here at Daytona, at least in the early going. And as far as I can see, we have at least about 20 cars, at least 20 cars that are in this lead pack within the first 6 of this race. And all 3 of the Jordan Anderson racing cars are occupying 3 out of the top 5 positions. See, we also saw Haley Tullis making her way through turns 3 and 4. Probably by the time that she's hit the front straightaway, these drivers are already in turn 3, and they're still running 3 wide formation amongst at least 3 rows deep. Douglas on the inside and Judicia on the outside. There's Reagan Whitlock in the 54. She wound up driving for Cologne Motorsports for a couple of seasons in 2023 and last year before Cologne Motorsports, I would have to believe, elected not to return to WRLA competition for this season. But now here is Whitlock riding in 3rd as of right now, 2nd car on the inside line, but they are catching that 91 of Tullis in a hurry. Heading through turn 3. They might catch her. Oh, they're going to catch her way earlier than what I thought they were going to, and everybody on the inside line is going to get by, and they're going to split her down the middle, at least for the most part. Maybe, I don't even know if Tullis knows where to go here. But everybody on that inside line is going to get by without any sort of issue. However, the outside and middle lanes, they are going to be the biggest losers out of this whole deal. And this is going to string out this 20-car pack tremendously, at least and also just temporarily, because Douglas and Whitlock, they're both 1-2 as of right now. They're also side by side at the same time. So this is not really going to work all that well into their favor. They're not going to be able to pull away from drivers like Bruno Diacomo, Sarah Taylor, Judicia, even John Boyd here in this 41, because they're all going to get lined up and they're going to trail the top 2 right back down. They're already in single file formation. So consider this lead that these 2 have on everybody else very short-lived, because here comes Diacomo and the rest of the pack. At least whatever pack is snagging any sort of draft that they can get off of these 2. Diacomo, Judicia, Taylor, Boyd, Amon, they've all caught up. There's Nick Martin in the 78, who's trailing the 27. And then there's Reagan DeFeo. Alexander Rowe has been pulled back in. Noah Kars. There's Justin Ingleham. Quentin Moore, who's driving for NS Racing in the Xfinity Series, while also driving full-time for Durrani Racing over in the Cup Series. But of course, Ryan Durrani's driver is Sebastian Kukulon, and Kukulon, unfortunately, is out of the race in the 38th position if you're just now tuning in. And we got another car, that's Will Parrish in the 28, and they're all going to get held up by this machine. Everybody's going to get held up. That's going to pull Bryce Egan into the mix. And everybody now on the outside is going to get by the 28 of Parrish. Now everybody on the inside is going to have a go. And the whole middle and outside lanes, they're going to get completely held up temporarily. And now just up ahead, at least for slower traffic, they have the 00 of Ryan Kendall, Morgan, Neely, and also Carter Belair to deal with. They're making their way to turn 4 while these guys are halfway down the backstretch. Diacomo now making the move to the inside. This is the battle for the race lead. Judicia right there in 3rd. Now going to make a move for 2nd as she just dives down to the bottom of the 54 of Whitlock. Quentin Moore, Nick Martin, they are here as well. Ryan Davis hasn't strayed too far away from this lead group. But just as quickly as all these drivers got reformed, at least got this pack reformed, they're going to have to deal with that slower traffic again. And do apologize for that that little mess up there. I guess I accidentally, I guess I fully just had my fingers on the Shift V keys just to cycle through all the other drivers. So almost made a full rotation around the racetrack completely backwards. Quentin Moore is going to make a rotation down to the inside of the 31 of Judicia, and they're going to be side by side heading to the stripe, and it's going to be, oh, that's going to be Mary Judicia that's going to lead that lap. Just think if that was the finish of the race, that would have been like the finish in the truck race earlier today with Emmanuel Hart and Michael Davis. But the outside line would have been the prevailing line, at least this time around, at least to lead lap 17. We are just past 1/4 of the way through the Drive4COPD 300 here at Daytona. The first race for the WRLA Xfinity Series. Just for those who are now starting to tune in, we've had one caution that happened on lap number 1 in midway through turns 3 and 4. And we already have 10 retirees in this event. That being Derek Hamill, Kenny Shremy, Eric Blaze, Stephen Walker, Jordan Sumner, Ajax Fitzgerald, Austin Kane, Sebastian Cucalon, Igor Barreto, and Celeste Lace have all retired from the race because of also, not just because of that lap 1 crash, but there was also a stack up that happened, I would have to believe, down the back straightaway with all these drivers trying to get themselves situated into the positions that they crossed the line in at the moment of caution. So those drivers that wound up getting heavy damage from the stack up under yellow, that more than likely, well, that definitely was the thing that took those drivers out. But now here we come on to the other slower cars. Now, some of these drivers, they had damage from the stack up, but it wasn't enough to take them fully out of the race. They're just out of contention for the win. They're trying to collect as many points as they possibly can, and the lead pack is starting to catch up to these now 5 cars who are now catching up to Haley Tolis, who is dramatically slower than everybody else that has severe damage to their cars. And now they have nowhere to go because of Tolis and now Neely and the 7, of Steve Morgan. Atikian and Davis are now double file up at the front of the field. Sarah Taylor now moves into 3rd. But they also have to deal with Ryan Kendall and Carter Belair. What are they going to do with these two? As Atikian is now being completely freight trained on the bottom because of him getting a complete. Oh wow, look at that! Holy cow, that was a move and a half. Atikian tried to just slam the door on Bryce Egan to try to get that spot, so that way he can just work his way to the inside of Morgan and Neely. Everybody else still kind of having some problems, just trying to get by the slower 1 and 7 cars, and now the 00 of Kendall and Carter Belair. Now they're starting to drive away, they're starting to drive away from the rest of the other drivers that are getting completely held up by these 4, now 5 cars, if you count Haley Tolis, whom is nowhere to be seen in this picture because of how slow that car really is going. So far, it's the front 4 that are all grouped up, at least momentarily. Now, if I am correct, we might have some pit stops coming up. I'd say maybe right around lap 32, maybe right around the lap 32, 36 window. A little bit, possibly a little bit earlier, but we'll have to find out once we cross that path. We are about 8 laps away from halfway. Josiah Munsell, who's running full-time here in the Xfinity Series, makes a move down to the inside of Noah Cars. Sarah Taylor, excuse me, not Sarah Davis, but Sarah Taylor is going to make a run behind the 48 as Ryan Davis. This is the correct Davis that I meant to bring up. Leads the way here at Daytona. Now, this is some really good practice here for somebody like Ryan Davis, for instance. He is going to be in tomorrow's Daytona 500, along with Mercedes Davis, who we saw yesterday in Truck Series qualifying. are in Xfinity Series racing, and Ryan Davis definitely going to use this race as sort of practice for tomorrow night's Daytona 500. Ray Atikian might be using this race for the same purpose as well. And by the time that this race premieres on YouTube, you would already know whether or not if Ray Atikian will be racing in tomorrow night's Daytona 500. So we might have 2 drivers, maybe 3 if you count Josiah Munsell as well. But in this race, Munsell leads the way. He won the Daytona 500 back in 2020, so that is just about 6 years ago. And time really flies when you're having fun, and so far Munsell having a lot of fun out front with Atikian in second. And look at Sarah Taylor just absolutely thread the needle between the 92 and the 70, making it look absolutely effortless. Well, in the meantime, we have Bryce Egan in the 35, along with the 78 of Nick Martin, along with Campbell Marsh, John Boyd, Justin Ingleham, Kasumi Takashi. All these other cars that got held up by the slower traffic, they're now starting to group up once again. However, they're gonna have to deal with slower traffic again because Will Parrish is just ahead, making his way down the back straightaway this time by. Ryan Davis now to the inside of Sarah Taylor. This is the battle for the top position. Both of the Taylor Motorsports cars are in this, Ingleham and Bryce Egan, and here we go, 3 wide. Nick Martin takes it downstairs. On cars and Atikian and Taylor. Now the catch is between the 35 and the 53. Yes, they are 2 different manufacturers. They are 2 completely different manufacturers, but it's interesting to me of how they're both under the same camp of Taylor Motorsports. So it's a pretty interesting dilemma that Zachary Taylor has going on for him. As Bryce Egan, he's full-time in trucks, but part-time here we go. We catch Will Parrish once again, and Nick Martin's going to get by pretty effortlessly. Egan and Ingleham will follow, and everybody else that's on the inside, they're going to make their way around this number 28. Well, Davis and Taylor and Atikian and Boyd and others, they're going to have to suffer the consequences of trailing this number 28 of Will Parrish, who has a moderate amount of hood damage to his number 28 machine. Although Stapleton, whom we had in the booth earlier today, is looking on from the pit box, well, at least from one of the pit boxes from his cars. Although he's not the happiest, about Will Parrish's performance here to kick things off, he does have 2 other cars to cheer on, that being Kasumi Takashi and even Quentin Moore. They're still running top 10 as of right now. Closing in on the halfway mark and closing in on Haley Tullis again. And they're going to absolutely split her down the middle and make that look absolutely easy. Tullis, though, holds up her own teammate of Noah Cars, and everybody else, they're going to have a little bit of fun trying to get by this 91 of Haley Tullis. And I mean that with the utmost sarcasm. DeFeo and Atikian going to make their way down low. And Erica Douglas going to have to wait her turn to make her way down to the inside, or maybe full commit to the outside, which is exactly what's going to happen here as Tullis drops low to let the 32 go. Marcus Sachi and Alexander Rowe, they're going to have a fun time getting by the 91 of Tullis. Meanwhile, up front, 3 wide here for this race lead. Give it to Quentin Moore, who's way down on the inside line. Munsell in the middle, and Ingleham up top with his teammate of Bryce Egan. Second car on the second lane. It was third for a moment, now emerges back down to second. Or 2 lanes, I really mean to say there. But closing in on the halfway mark of the Drive4COPD 300. Quentin Moore leads the way. Nick Martin leading the inside line. Looks like he's going to take away the second position. And then Munsell will be is going to cross the line in third. Diacomo in his one-off appearance here at Daytona is going to be in fourth. Then Kasumi Takashi completes the top five. And then it's Justin Ingleham sixth. Bryce Egan in seventh. Danamon eighth. Then in ninth is Marion Judicia, and Ryan Davis completes the top 10. Halfway home here at Daytona. And definitely got to have to go use the restroom here real quick. But you're not going to miss any sort of action for WRLA Xfinity Series Racing at Daytona. All right, I am now back, so we should be good to go to the finish. So far, these 7 cars have not been broken apart, at least not just yet, because we still have these other drivers that they're going to have to deal with. And then some here, because we got Harun Kankoiloglu being trapped behind the Alpha Prime cars of Haley Curris and Thomas Jericho. Sam Robinson in the Colic car just up ahead. Or at least one of the Beacon Academy racing machines, I would believe. Yeah, this is definitely one of the Beacon Academy racing cars. Nonetheless, or at least one of the Colic cars, if I remember correctly, they are catching up to that slower traffic once again, but pit stops, if I remember correctly, pit stops should be coming up. And we're just going past that window that I had projected, so I am sorely mistaken on the pit window. The drivers make their way through turns 1 and 2. Nick Martin still leads the way. Quentin Moore still scored in second. Kasumi Takashi down there on the inside line. Second car on the bottom with Bryce Egan. Third car on the inside line. And we're just closing in on 25 laps of racing to go from here at Daytona. And again, I would still believe that pit stops are going to be a factor here in this event. That second pack being led by Dana Mon is starting to close in on this lead group. But by the time that they catch up, these drivers are going to catch up to the slower traffic. Brian Kendall, more than likely, is going to be the first one. Either that or maybe Haley Tullis. Because Tullis has definitely been very, very, very slow. Would definitely have to believe that she has dropped a cylinder on that 91 from that one and only caution that we've had so far. And here we go. Nick Martin is going to just slice up to the outside of the 91 of Tullis, and everybody else, they're going to be held up The inside line is open, so everybody, Takashi goes by, along with the 35 of Egan. Ingleham follows, Giacomo, Dana Mon, Noah Cars. I don't even know if Tullis even knows where she needs to go or where she needs to be. She's blocking any and every single line known to man. And again, that's going to absolutely split up the pack. Nick Martin has a huge lead over the NS Racing cars. He drafts right by the 51 of Carter Belair, and look at the lead that Martin has over the NS Racing cars. Well, now Justin Ingleham, it's a 2-second gap that Nick Martin has over the rest of the field, at least the lead lap cars. Giacomo's going to get by. Now Justin Ingleham is going to finally have an opportunity to drive around the 7. And we're coming up on Will Parrish once again. And Martin is going to have really no sort of issues working his way around that 28. That is if he catches up to him by himself. That more than likely is not going to be the case, because the 99 and 53, they've hooked up, or at least they're together. And they're going to do everything that they can to trail down that 78. Takashi breaks free from the clutches of the lap traffic, and now he's going to try to draft up to the other two cars. Egan breaks free, so does Noah Cars and Marion Judicia. So now they're going to be drafting together to try to catch that 78, who is all by his lonesome and using whatever sort of draft that he can find to get to at least try to increase his lead and stay out as far ahead as he can. But he can only do that for so long. He has no more cars that he can draft with, and the only ones that he could theoretically draft with, they're already in turn 1, or at least going to turn 2. So there's no way that this 78 is going to be out front for the rest of the race all by himself. Guaranteed no way that that is going to be happening anytime soon. He might have a 1.5-second lead over now Justin Ingleham and Kasumi Takashi, but that lead is going to be erased within a couple of laps. 20 to go this time by from here at Daytona. This has been a very bizarre way to start off the season, with a lap 1 crash with 10 drivers going out of the race. We haven't even that hasn't even started at that point. And now with the constant dealing with constant lap traffic, or at least the same cars over and over and over again, and the pack being as split up as it is right now, and with the potential of pit stops looming over the horizon, that more than likely could be the case. Well, that lead was a 1 1/3 second advantage over Takashi. Now Nick Martin has no lead whatsoever. It's a 1/4 second difference between him and Justin Ingleham according to scoring, and that has just been erased. Ingleham works his way down low. He takes over the race lead from Nick Martin, bringing Judicia, Cars, and Giacomo all on that inside line. Ryan Davis, Monsell, Atikian, and Amon, they've all worked together to try to trail down this lead pack. So that brings it up to 11 cars that are in this lead group. Judicia to the inside, trying to nab that race lead away from the 53, and she's going to just barely get him at the line. And we're catching up to that slower traffic, that 4-car jam session between Kuris, Jericho, Robinson, and Koiloglu, who is leading this charge. as they work their way towards turn 3. Now Noah Carr's leading that inside groove, heading back through turn 3 and 4 with Bruno Giacomo in tow. Ryan Davis, Mansell, Amon, those 5 cars lined up on the inside, so it's an 11-horse fight for this lead. Before how much longer, though? That's the question. You got those other 4 cars that are more John Boyd, even the 24 of Sarah Taylor, and the 18 of Camp Marsh, who started this race from the pole position. They're sort of trailing this lead group, but not by much. But they're definitely going to catch these 4 cars up here. They're going to catch these 4 cars up here that are going 3 abreast. Obviously, that's not going to last for much longer. But they come off of 4, heading back towards the start-finish line. 16 laps of racing to go from Daytona. Let's see how these drivers are going to deal with these 4 cars just up ahead. Everybody behind Judicia is going 3 wide. Judicia takes it downstairs on Curris. And now they are double file once again, and they absolutely just catch that 91 of Haley Tullis, who's literally driving with a parachute tied behind the car. She is going considerably slower compared to everybody else, and this is going to stack a lot of drivers up. Judicia takes off with the lead. Noah Carrs, you see him right there in second. Giacomo comes out third. Mansell and Atikian 4th and 5th as of right now. They complete your top 5. Then the Taylor Motorsports teammates of Bryce Egan and Justin Ingleham, 6th and 7th with 15 to go. Davis, Sarah Taylor, and now I believe Quentin Moore or Marcus Sacchi will complete your top 10. I believe this is the first time, and probably since the beginning of the race, since we've seen Marcus Sacchi crack the top 10 here in this event. That is if he can get by Thomas Jericho or even Quentin Moore, but Moore I think is going to have the better run on the outside. That is indeed going to be the case. He's going to drop low on the 14 of Sacchi with 14 laps of racing to go. Giacomo has now officially taken the top spot away from Judicia. Bruno Giacomo competed in the truck race earlier today. He started outside pole for that event, and by the time that you're seeing this, you would already know exactly where Bruno Giacomo finished in the truck race. And you will know whether or not if he'll be competing in tomorrow night's Daytona 500. If you have not watched the duels last night, though, that at least the footage from those races premiered this morning before the truck race. Mansell now takes over the top spot. Ingleham to the inside with Noah Carrs. Bryce Egan and Sarah Taylor all lined up on the inside line. Quentin Moore coming back into the mix. There's several cars that are now, I would have to say, contenders here that for this potential race win. As Sacchi and Dana Mon now start to pull up to this group. John Boyd in that 41, I'd say, is also could be a legit contender as well if he's able to draft up, or at least try to get whatever sort of slingshot he can around the 42. But Harun Khan is doing everything that he can to just hold on to the bottom. But I mean, honestly, he has a little bit of mechanical damage, I'd say. I don't think he would hold off John Boyd anytime soon. But Boyd, kind of in a similar scenario to what Michael DeFeo was in earlier today, just trying to draft up to this lead group. And he's going to get mission accomplished on that because he just snagged a draft off of the 70, and now John Boyd has joined this fight for the lead and potentially the win here at Daytona. We're closing in on 10 laps to go. Next time by, Egan leads the way, trying to seek some redemption from the truck race earlier today. I'd say the same goes for Sarah Taylor in the 24, who also competed earlier today, and she didn't get the result that she was looking for whatsoever. Got taken out in a crash on lap 12, and now here she is trying to get her season started off with a bang, trying to potentially get her first career win here at Daytona. As they come through turn 4, heading back to the start-finish line, Marcus Sacchi to the inside, and I believe he'll be leading for the first time here at Daytona. 10 fingers in the air, 10 laps to go from the World Center of Racing and the Drive4COPD 300. Naman right there on the inside line with John Boyd, Diacomo, and others. And now as Sacchi moves up high, that opens up the door wide open for Sacchi to drive low. And there he goes to the inside of the 14 of Marcus Sacchi. They're going to be catching up to the slower traffic of the Death Rider racing cars of Steve Morgan and Joshua Neely, and also Ryan Kendall, the hoodless machines. And here we go, 4 wide. We haven't seen this since the beginning of the race. Davis makes it 4 wide underneath of Diacomo, Quentin Moore, and now Marcus Sacchi. And Douglas, I think, is going to follow suit in the 32. As now they're down the back straightaway, 4 wide. I don't know if they're going to be able to make it to turn 4, or at least make it nearly a whole lap under this 4 wide circumstance. And somehow, some way, they make it and we settle it back down to 3 wide. Great driving by these cars, or at least great driving. Great heads-up driving by these guys to at least settle it back down to 3 wide. That's the benefit of having a smaller pack, is that you better your chances of getting out of situations like that, but they're never, ever zero. So Douglas now going to take the lead, at least going to try to, underneath of Ryan Davis, and they're going to get absolutely slammed by Tullis and others. So Douglas gets by scot-free, but everybody else on that outside line, they had to absolutely jump on the brakes because they were coming up on the 91 at such an alarming rate. And Douglas, after all of that, takes over the top position. Judicia in second. Moore comes out in third. And Noah Carr's right there in the 4th position. Now Judicia takes it low on her own teammate of Erica Douglas, coming to 5 or at least 6 laps to go. Will Parrish just up ahead in the 28 machine. And look who just got pulled right back into the mix. That's our pole sitter of Campbell Marsh. We haven't talked a lot about him since the beginning of this event. And now here he is, back inside of the top 10 and back in the picture to try to win this race. But now he finds himself trapped on that outside line. He's going to take it downstairs and try to get by this number 28 of Will Parrish. And if you're Quentin Moore, I'd have to think that you're believing that Will Parrish is such a great teammate right now, because he is also holding up the 92 of Noah Carr's and absolutely just hurt his chances of winning this race. I wouldn't say that they're completely eliminated, because you never know what could happen in the closing stages of Daytona. You never know exactly who could come out of the woodworks and try to get this win. But they come through turn number 4. 5 fingers in the air, 5 laps to go here at Daytona. So far, it is a 4-horse race to decide who wins this event. Judicia taking it away from Douglas. Davis and Moore, they're going to be following suit. Quentin Moore to the inside. And so far, again, it is a 4-horse race to decide who wins here at Daytona. Campbell Marsh and Josiah Munsell, they're duking it out for 5th, with Atikian waiting in the wings in 7th. But for the most part, they're all single file, so they could, if they actually stay single file, they could still try to catch these front 4. But I don't think it's going to matter, even if they're side by side. That second and third pack, they're still going to trail down this lead group. But they will be closing in on the 54 of Reagan Whitlock up ahead, who's making her way into turn 3 right now. Ryan Davis down to the inside on the 31 of Mary Judicia. And it looks like Moore, I thought Moore was going to go with, but Erica Douglas said, nuh-uh, I want this win here at Daytona. She makes her way to the inside. Going to try to get 2 birds with 1 stone. If she can stay glued to the back bumper of this 70. 3 laps of racing to go. And that second pack, they're here, and they now have a shot at winning this event. Campbell Marsh looking to try to win this race from the pole, but he is stuck in the middle of a 3-wide situation. Atikian is right there in the 7th position in case if anything were to happen. He's just hoping and praying that he can find himself in the right place at the right time, but now he finds himself stuck in the middle 3 wide. And Davis leads the charge with 2 laps to go coming up. Douglas right there in second. It's not over until it's over. 2 laps of racing to go from here at Daytona. The Jordan Anderson racing cars running 2nd and 3rd right now. Marsh takes it downstairs to make it 3 wide. He doesn't have a run. The caution is out. Wait a minute. Caution is out. The race is over. Or is it? Wait, hold on. They're racing it back. They're racing it back. Davis still out front, at least momentarily. Judicia to the end, or at least on the outside. Douglas on the inside. This is the fight for second, and they're going to crash again coming off of turn number 4. And Ryan Davis, as they wreck behind, they are going to come to the caution flag. Davis will, and that is it. Ryan Davis is going to come home a winner here at Daytona. Wow! We had a crash in turn 4, or off of turn 4, just after everybody crossed the finish line, the start-finish line for 2 to go. And then they wreck again coming off of turn number 4, coming back around to take the white flag. Justin Ingleham, Sarah Taylor, Bryce Egan. I saw Ray Atikian get collected along with Josiah Munsell. There's the damage to the 48. But man, what a hard-fought battle to the finish here at Daytona. And all that practice in today's race is all going to pay off for the number 70 of Ryan Davis. And as far as the Chevrolet camp goes, it's going to be 2-4-2 when it comes to points paying races. Hartnett won a thrilling side-by-side finish for Chevrolet. And now here they come off of 4, heading towards the Trioval. Ryan Davis is going to win the Drive4COPD 300 here at Daytona. Well, how about that? We had 2 regulars of the Truck Series duke it out for the win. And a Cup driver is going to win this race under caution here in Daytona. And that practice that this 70 of Ryan Davis has gotten here today, we'll hope and pray that it all pays off tomorrow when the green flag drops at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night on Twitch. It is going to be an absolutely astounding night tomorrow night, but for today, Ryan Davis comes home a winner for his first WRLA Xfinity Series win. Great run for the Jordan Anderson racing cars. With Marion Judicia and Erica Douglas, they finished second and third. Quentin Moore is going to come home in fourth. Campbell Marsh, our pole sitter, rounds out your top five. Then in sixth is the 99 of Bruno Giacomo in his one-off appearance. Then in eighth will be Dana Mon, the third Jordan Anderson racing car. Ninth is Marcus Sachi. And completing your top 10 is the 20 of Ray Atikian. Before we take a look at our finishing results, let's go back and see the two crashes that occurred under our final caution here at Daytona. Well, this is what brought out the final caution. You're going to see Harun Khan Koiloglu get right reared by the 7 of Steve Morgan. Right there, you're going to see that 42 and 7. They're both going to go right up into the outside wall. And then it's just on from there. Will Parrish gets collected in this one, but the 7 and the 42 wound up going around. They do spin off the racing surface. So this crash happened just after the leaders crossed the start-finish line to take 2 laps to go. But Morgan and Koiloglu were able to drive away from the scene. But then we had that crash amongst the leaders with Atikin and others coming to the white flag. Let's take a look at that. So it's kind of like what we saw at the beginning of the race. But this time the stakes were much, much higher than what they were at the start. You see Bryce Egan forcing the hole underneath of Munsell, Ray Atikian, and also Noah Cars. But Atikian and Cars, they wound up rubbing doors in the process. And then they walk up the racetrack and then collect that 92 of Noah Cars. And then they just go right on down in front of the 35 of Egan, who then spins on the racetrack. And then right up into an oncoming Sarah Taylor on the left-hand side of your screen. There's the damage that the 24 has sustained. While these three of Atikian, Munsell, and Cars, they are around. And then, man, that's just, oh my God, look at the air that 35 just sustained. It's such a shame, though, because Zachary Taylor's cars were doing so good all night long up until this particular moment, and it's going to end in smoke for both of the Zachary Taylor Motorsports cars. That's just absolutely what an unfortunate way to end it off here. These two cars, I'd say, ran really well all night long. Consistently right around the top 10 area, especially between Egan and Justin Ingleham. And unfortunately, it just ends under caution coming to the white flag in the garage area for these two cars. But that's such a shame. I mean, Ray Atikian, though, he's still going to come home with a top 10. But there are other drivers that unfortunately are not going to be able to fight for a win. Obviously are not. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Unfortunately, there's going to be some drivers that are not going to be too pleased with that finish. Unless if your name is Ryan Davis and you are celebrating regardless. But nonetheless, that's how the race ended here at Daytona. Now, let's go ahead and review your finishing results. And ladies and gentlemen, here are your results for the Drive4COPD 300. Ryan Davis comes home the winner again. Judicious second, Douglas third, Moore, Marsh. They complete your top 5. Then it's Diacomo, Boyd, Amon, Sachi, and Atikian. They complete your top 10. Then Josiah Munsell, Ray Atikian, or Noah Carr, excuse me. Munsell, Atikian, or geez, I did it again. Munsell, Cars, Takashi, DeFeo, Rowe, Martin, and Whitlock. They all finished on the lead lap. And then you have Justin Ingleham, Sarah Taylor, and Bryce Egan. They all retired from the race. From the crash coming to the white flag. Then Robinson, Jericho, and Kuris all finished one lap down. Then Harunkan Koiloglu finished in the 24th position, also retiring from the race. Then Carter Belair, Joshua Neely, Ryan Kendall, Steve Morgan, Will Parrish, and these 91 of Haley Tolis. They all finished more than one lap down. And then our other retirees of Derek Hamill, Kenny Stremme, Eric Blaze, Stephen Walker, Jordan Sumner, Fitzgerald, Austin Kane, Sebastian Kugalon, Igor Barreto, and Celeste Lace. They have all smelled what the rock was cooking. But what a doubleheader from here at the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, that saw Chevrolet sweep the day with Emmanuel Hartnett in the truck race, and now Ryan Davis here in tonight's Xfinity Series opening event. Here are your points after race number 1 of the WRLA Xfinity Series. As far as this action goes for Xfinity Series, well, let me start that over. As far as Xfinity Series action, don't forget, we'll be at the Minnesota Motorsports Park next Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're hoping that you guys are able to join us for that. But when it comes to action here at Daytona, the wait is almost over. Less than 24 hours away, we will be racing in the NOS Energy Cup Series for the season opening Daytona 500. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button and be sure to hit that subscribe button in order to keep up with some fine WRLA content that's coming out in the near future. One more time, congratulations to Ryan Davis on closing out our doubleheader by winning here at Daytona. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Take care, and we will see you all tonight or tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch for the NOS Energy Cup Series at Daytona 500.